Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jump and today I'll be reviewing the Resident Evil 2 remake which was released back in 2019. Now this is a remake of the 1998 game and this story follows both Leon S. Kennedy as well as Claire Redfield. And this, in terms of when it comes to the story, it differs a bit when it comes to these two characters because with Leon, the story follows him on his first day at the Raccoon City Police Department, and with Claire, it follows her trying to find her brother Chris Redfield, and their paths sort of like intertwine every so often. Like there are some cutscenes where they will interact with each other and kind of like see how they're holding up, but then because of the plot, they will have to diverge again, and then we'll meet up like towards the later part of the game. And yeah, I think both stories are quite interesting. And when you first boot up the game, you can choose who to play as first, either as Leon first or Claire first, and then you'll play as the other characters. So if you chose Leon first, you'll then get to play as Claire, but if you choose Claire first, you'll then be able to play as Leon. And that's such an interesting way of playing the game. And a lot of games that I've played don't have this sort of thing, where it's like you have two characters who have two different storylines where they somewhat converge on each other somewhat, because there's like quite early on in the game, there will be Claire and Leon will meet each other again after entering the Raccoon City, and then they'll see like meet each other again at a gate at the police department, and then they'll meet each other again a lot later during the time of when they're both in the Umbrella secret laboratory area, and they all also have their own different characters. So like for Leon, he meets Ada, and for Claire, she meets an orphan girl. I don't 100% remember her name at the moment, but her parents, the orphan girl parents, are the reason the whole zombie apocalypse is happening, because this is the day, or this is like when both Leon and Claire enter Raccoon City. It's been a few weeks or so since the zombie outbreak, and the reason is because of the orphan girl's parents. And the dad turns himself into this giant sort of bioweapon monster. Kind of similar to like, Mr. X or Nemesis or any other bioweapon type of character you'll see in the other Resident Evil games. And yeah, and I think the whole game is quite cool because you get to see both Claire and Leon's perspectives, and I do like how you can play the other's perspective immediately after you've played the other's perspective. And also, the cutscenes change a bit, because there's like a bit in the RPD where Leon is talking to, I believe, one of the other police officers, and that changes a bit depending on if you're playing as Leon or Claire, and that's really, really cool. And I do hope more games do something like this, where you have two characters and they got two different storylines, but they converge on each other every now and again, and I really do hope we get to see more of that. So yeah, and now it's time for some gameplay. So when it comes to the gameplay, Leon and Claire both have different kinds of weapons. I'm going to show you some of Leon's first. So Leon, this is like some of the stuff that Leon has, and yeah, it's quite fun. And this is part of the game where he has to escape from the laboratory, and it's pretty simple. The gameplay is pretty much the same sort of thing as you see in like other shooting type games, including Resident Evil, where you're given like a certain amount of ammo, as well as stuff you can like use. So knives, gunpowder, and like in every other Resident Evil game, you can combine the gunpowder into stuff like into extra bullets, like ammo for your handgun, or for shotgun shells, or for various different weapons depending on what ones you have. And yeah, and I think it works quite well because different weapons will have better effects. So, for example, for these plant creatures, they are very weak to fire. So using a flamethrower works on them quite well, and they're quite effective. And regular bullets, as well as other stuff, as well as shotgun shells and that sort of thing, work on zombies. And I think regular bullets also work on their plant enemies, but the flamethrower, as well as the flame-based, the fire-based, I think the grenade launcher that you do with Claire, also works quite well against them. Also, there's this Mr. X, who's one of the stalking type of enemies you find in Resident Evil 2, as well as in Resident Evil things in general, because it's too well known for its stalking type enemies. And yeah, and then we're going to quickly move over to Claire. So with Claire, she has slightly different guns to Leon, as you can see here. So she's got like a minigun, a spark shotgun, a grenade launcher, but some of the weapons that you get are sort of the same when you compare it to Leon, but overall it is quite different when it comes to Leon. Also, there's the standard supply crate, which can help you, which in every other Resident Evil game that has this, basically helps you with different, holding extra stuff or stuff you might not need in the future. Like, for example, some of these things, like, let's say, the sewers key, you might need it for example, the sewers part of the game, but only for that particular section, and then you won't need it for the rest of the game. And it's really fun. I think it's a good way of storing your items. I think it's a good way of just because you can only have a limited amount of space in your main inventory, the supply crate does help you store extra stuff that you might not need or might want to hold on to for later. So yeah, there's that. And it's really quite enjoyable. And now, yeah, I'm going to show you some of the gameplay you can do with Claire, because it's and see because it's still kind of the same with Claire and Leon, but actually different. And also with the minigun, it does take a bit to start up, but it is a fun weapon to use, in terms of getting rid of a horde of enemies. And yeah, the gameplay is kind of a bit pretty much the same with Leon and Claire, but just with different weapons. And I would say, I was just saving certain types of ammo and stuff for different things, for different boss fights and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's been it for the gameplay. Now let's go back to the review. So overall, I would say that Resident Evil 2 Remake is a really enjoyable game. I do like the whole diverging storylines with Leon and Claire, and I think there's a lot of really fun elements, like the whole RPD section of the game, because with that bit, you've got a lot of narrow corridors and areas that you can obviously get jump scared at, and I think it's really fun. And I do like how each section it just tries and adds on to the horror elements. The only thing I would say is that during the whole last section of the game, that being the factory, well, not the factory, not the library, the laboratory, there we go, got the word. During the laboratory bit, I think it starts off quite strong with a lot of horror-based elements, but I do feel like it kind of strips that away, and it does fall into the whole Resident Evil action final part, if you know what I'm talking about, because Resident Evil, I do enjoy how it brings in a lot of horror-based elements, and it does have a lot of jump scares that will make people frightened, and I think that's what makes this whole series really enjoyable, because of that terrifying element. But then for the last hour and a half, it does fall into the whole action genre type of game or film or whatever when it comes to that bit. And it does lose a bit of that, but there are still some parts that are filled with like dark corridors and jump scares. But I feel like I think for the last half an hour, 20 minutes, it does go full on action genre type of thing, because you have to fight your respective stalker enemy, and it's set on a timer, and you have to basically fight them before the timer runs out. And I think that's where it loses a lot of, or some of it, or some of the charm, because it does fall into the whole action type of thing you kind of see in some bits of media, but not a whole lot of it. But overall, I'd say that Resident Evil 2 Remake is a really, really good game, and I do enjoy playing through both as Leon and Kennedy. Not Kennedy. Kennedy's his surname. Leon and Claire, and I do hope we get to see them make some sort of a cameo in Resident Evil 9, because in that game you get to go back to hopefully get to go back to Raccoon City, and hopefully maybe Grace Ashcroft, who's the main character for Resident Evil 9, gets to interact with hopefully both Leon and Claire, because they were both survivors of the Raccoon City disaster. So maybe she can talk to them, and hopefully we can get a cameo from them, hopefully for the next game. So yeah, so that's been my review for Resident Evil 2 Remake. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.